like to take a few moments to reflect on not only the veterans in this cemetery, the veterans who are present, but also on what we as a nation owe our veterans. It has almost become a habit for people to say, "Thank you for your service." At times, it seems to me, and I have to admit, I'm from a time where we could not wear uniforms off base, and some even had to wear a wig to cover up the short hair so as not to be set upon. It sounds mechanical and awkward. I know that people mean it, but it still sounds funny. But I am glad that we as a nation have come to recognize that our military is vital to our nation's survival. It is especially important in this month to look at how we honor and remember those who have served. November is a month where we elect our leaders, honor our veterans, and thank God for the blessings of our liberty. These 3 days sum up most of what is important about this country. We see too many bogged down in all our supposed faults, but because of that, we often fail to appreciate that the very liberty that creates problems also creates the solutions. As a nation, we have the freedom and ability to change, but that freedom must be used and defended. That defense falls to the common citizen. We forget that, for those in our armed forces are common, everyday citizens. They are who we honor on this day, whether they went as volunteers or draftees, where they fought for us at places with names such as Kings Mountain, Olustee, Antietam, Manila Bay, Chateau Thierry, Wake Island, The Bulge, Incheon, Tel Fiji, Haditha, Tora Bora, whether on land, in the air, at sea, at home in support, or on the home front and front lines they went. We focus on the poor support our veterans get after service, but instead of just thanking and discussing that, we need to rather take inspiration from their service to change things. We forget that the government that we complain about is us. My family has always been a military family, and the service of the members who put their lives on hold and on the line for the country was always held up as an inspiration. Not to do great things and gather up awards for one's aggrandizement, but rather for us to continue their service. My Uncle Amos was a World War I veteran, and he was disabled by chlorine gas as a forward artillery observer in France. At family gatherings, he would often have to excuse himself due to coughing fits caused by the lingering effects of the chlorine gas. But while this would sometimes knock him off his feet for days, he never let it slow him down. He remained active in business in the American Legion, many civic organizations, and he left his stamp on this island for the good. He surveyed most of the property you live on today. He always said that he did not want thanks. He wanted others to be inspired to go beyond their own reluctance or disabilities and be involved. He always said we were to make this country better through our own service. Another veteran, a German immigrant, arrived in this country in December of 1863 with nothing but a wife and 3 teenage sons. He was a trained artilleryman and joined the 15th New York Heavy Artillery by lying about his age and marital status to get the state to give his family a start in this country. He went off to war, believing he would serve in the forts around Washington, but in a matter of months, he found himself marching into the winter camp of the Army of the Potomac as a Red Leg infantryman. He fought from the wilderness all the way to the first assault on Petersburg. There, in an assault on Confederate line, he was wounded, losing most of the muscle on his right leg, then turned a flesh wound. Spent 3 days in the battlefield before the ambulance corps could get him off, and then after 10 days in the hospital at City Point, he was sent to the General Hospital at Alexandria. After 1 year in the hospital, his wound would not heal. He was discharged in mid-1865, and a grateful nation took care of him, provided him transportation home. They'd already forgotten their veterans that early at the end of the war, and they provided a train of unclean cattle cars, which the soldiers going back were told if you clean them out, it'd be a lot easier on the ride north. He walked home from Washington, D.C. to New York City. There were members of his family in later years who were embarrassed by the fact that he died of cirrhosis of the liver, saying he was a drunk. Looking at it now with the knowledge of Civil War medical procedures, he was hooked on morphine and alcohol, which is what they used in the hospital to ease the pain of soldiers. He had what was called the soldier's disease. We know it as an addiction to painkillers, and it is clear from all the other documents he suffered from what we call today PTSD. What those family members who did not take the time to learn about history was that he inspired those who knew him to become Americans. You see, he came to this country with a dream to ensure that his family could get an education. He could never get an education as that was against the law in Bavaria, and his sons could not get that education as they had to go to work to support the family once they got here. The nation finally granted him a $2 a month pension. The family struggled at first, but his sons became successes in business as he made them learn English and go into business. While none of those who came with him from Germany got the education he wanted, it is of interest to note that everyone in his lineage, from his grandchildren on, have gone on to college, and many have advanced degrees. The first member of the family to go to college inspired by his dream and his service was his first grandchild, a granddaughter. She was so proud of him that she wore his veteran's pin every Sunday to church until the day she died. His dream lives on, though many would miss it since he seemed on the surface to be a man with many faults, like many veterans are, caused by that service. His family has thanked him by their continuing service. His name was Jakob Schneider, and today his formerly unmarked grave in All Faith Cemetery, Queens, New York, is marked by a soldier's tombstone, arranged for by the grateful family who finally learned the full story and realized they lived his dream. He is my personal inspiration for service, my personal inspiration for all I do. He was my great-great-grandfather. So when I say inspire me, and that was the title of what I'm to talk, say thank you, but inspire me. I mean that we must not only do what Abraham Lincoln asked us to do, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace with ourselves and with all nations. We need not to just thank our veterans, or even just to care for our veterans, but also continue to honor them, help them come home, and of greater importance, we must also lead lives of service inspired by the heritage they have provided us and the liberty they defended. Take the time this Veterans Day to do more than just thank a veteran, but be inspired to fulfill the promise of this nation by learning the veterans' stories and then acting on that information to change the world as you know it. Thank you. Captain, would you render your honor the honors?
Present up! Shoulder, arms. Order, arms. Parade. Colors to the rear. March. Front rank. Shoulder, arms. Ready. Aim. Fire. Shoulder, arms. Order, arms. Parade, rest.
The traditional funeral hymn of the United States Army, since the day it was written and brought to this country, was Nearer My God to Thee. I would ask now that the musicians play that. While they're playing that, please think of those veterans you know. Bow our heads. Almighty God, we stand here today to pay tribute to brave men and women, living and dead, who have served their country in the armed forces. Accept our thanksgiving for their sacrifices and the sacrifice of their families, which have purchased for us a free land. Cause us never to take for granted their devotion to liberty, but our spirits be proud of them. Let their hearts be compassionate and our minds clear and determined in giving them the honor and respect they deserve. And kindle within us a flame of selflessness, unwavering devotion to duty, that we may never be found wanting in those qualities of spirit and mind which are able to preserve our homes, our communities, and the peace of our nations. Keep our memories alive with gratitude, and our gratitude alive with our faithfulness to the principles which made our nation great. Grant, we pray, joy and fulfillment to those still living, and for those who at rest. Grant your peace. Amen. Captain, carry your colors.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a all cemetery burial, follow Chaplain of the cemetery. Attention, company. Shoulder, arms. Present.